Good evening. It is another fine evening in the UK. You are joined by the UK Colts fans, and I have a very special show on prime time with me on Friday night. Let me introduce my guest. Today, join me. I don't have one guest. I have two guests from the same show. It's an absolutely cracking podcast. I can guarantee that I pronounced the name wrong because I always do. But it's the I've already messed it up. The Educated Fan Show is my crack at it, but I'll let these guys introduce it a bit more. Lads, just introduce yourself. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, my name is Brandon. I am a co-host of the Educated Fan. Don't worry, buddy. It's going to be easier to pronounce here soon. Making some changes. But yeah, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Andrew.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I'm Andrew. I'm the co-host of the Educated Fan. I'm also a writer for Sports Illustrated. So, yeah, we've been doing this podcast for about a year now. Really, just bringing the best Colts content that we can to people here, here over in the U.S. So it's a pleasure to join you over in the UK. Get some new fans, new listeners, and we're happy to be here, man. Pretty good.
Yeah, it is cool. So where are you both hailing from then? Where are we living now?
Well, we're both from Indiana, the Fort Wayne area. But currently I live in Seattle. So I'm over on the West Coast, dealing with all these Seahawks fans.
Opening game.
With my fiance. What's that?
The opening game.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's in Indianapolis, so I don't think I'll get to catch that one here. Andrew, season ticket holder, will be able to see that one in Indy.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a fun game. A lot of question marks for both teams. I mean, you have Russell Wilson and everything going on there, the drama with the Seattle Seahawks, and you've got the Colts with Carson Wentz, a guy coming to a new team and really trying to revive his career and save his career in a new team. In a new team, new city, but I honestly can't wait. Luke Soy is going to be rocking that night, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it will be nice to get back into full-on football, seeing as how it's been a bit of a shit year with everything that's going on around the world. I'm sure we're all just dying to see our team back on the field. We will get into that. I want to start, gents. One question I like to start with Colts fans, especially on the show, is how you found the Indianapolis Colts. For me, it was Madden. I played the game in 2007, and the Colts were on there with the Packers. It was only the demo, so rightfully so I chose the Colts, and thankfully so I chose the Colts. Brandon, how did you find the Colts?
Well, obviously being from Indiana, it's not too hard, but my mom and dad were big Colts fans, mostly my mom. So that was something her and I always bonded over when I was growing up. She's her favorite player ever is probably Reggie Wayne. She kind of always, I don't want to say shit on Peyton Manning, but always kind of gave him crap because, he always got all the glory while also always getting all the bashing, if we didn't do well. But then when we shipped him off to Denver, that upset her, so she became a real big Peyton Manning fan too then. But yeah, my mom, probably my mom.
Yeah. Andrew?
Yeah, so I started following the Colts in third grade. It was actually my teacher at the time was a huge Colts fan, and we talk a lot about the Colts, and I got me interested in watching the game. So from there, I kind of learned the game and became a huge fan, and it's just kind of gone steadfast in there. I don't know when I think it's been probably since third grade, the last time I missed a Colts game, and now I'm a season ticket holder and they're at every game and try to go to at least one away game a year if I can, to see, so that way I can get to all the different stadiums all throughout the league. So yeah, credit my third and fourth grade teacher for getting me hooked as a Colts fan.
Excellent. There's a massive shout out for him, to be honest, with appearing on this show. But anyway, the off-season, gents, it was, well, let's start with the end of the last season. Heartbreak in Buffalo, we threw everything onto that pitch. It just the ball didn't bounce our way that night. Shit happens. After the raw emotions sort of settled and it was, the season was over, how did you both assess Frank Reich and the Colts that season?
Go ahead, Andrew.
So I mean, I think I had a better. I think when we talk, Brandon and I'm a little more lenient on Frank Reich than Brandon is as far as play calling aspect of it. I don't think Frank Reich was the reason we lost that game at Buffalo. I think it was. I thought we beat ourselves. There were just too many times where the Colts had put themselves in position to really succeed and take over that game, and then they couldn't execute, whether it was on that fourth down call where Phillip Rivers was dropping back and he threw it just a little bit too far out of Michael Pittman's grasp, whether it was the offsides from Kamoko Toure, the missed field goal from Rodrigo Blankenship. All these things just kind of add up, and when you're not executing against one of the best teams in the league, it's going to bite you, and that's what happened to the Colts. And I think it was more disciplined. I thought the Colts had the talent to be with Buffalo, but the better team that executed that day ended up winning the game. So, and I think that's where the Colts might need to take that next step this year, is better execution and being able to deliver in those big moments.
Just before you go, Brandon, quick comment here from Colts loyalist. Nice to see you back in the show, pal. I am like execution or lack of, for sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, I have called out Frank Reich. I'm not going to sit here and say, people who watch this show regularly know I'm not even Matt Eberflus's biggest fan. We know what we're getting with Frank Reich. It's going to be pure gambling. He's the riverboat gambler for a reason. Was it, in your opinion, Brandon, was it the play calling or was it the execution what cost the Colts?
That day, overall execution. We had a chance to win the football game. I think there were a couple opportunities where, Frank Reich's play calling in key moments wasn't necessarily what I agreed with it at the time. But overall, Frank Reich himself, I'm a huge fan of. We can sit here and pick out and be nitty gritty about any coach, any play call throughout the season. But I always have a tough reaction right away too. I kind of let my emotions get the better of me before I really sit back and think about things. But that day, what was so frustrating is we did have a chance to win. But, looking back at the season, I didn't think necessarily we were going to be in that position in the first place. So looking back, I'm glad that we made it to where we were. Shocked to hear that you're not a big Matt Eberflus fan. We're big Matt Eberflus fans, I think. But yeah, I don't know. It was a tough loss. But because I thought we had a chance to win, because going into the game, I did not. So they gave me, they got my hopes up and kind of crushed them there at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I'll explain why I'm not a big Matt Eberflus fan. Mm-hmm. I love him as a coach, as a trainer, nice guy. I love his personality around the camp.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, he has no plan B. It's, sort of a bastardized a hybrid Tampa 2 scheme, what he runs off. Mm-hmm. And I just think when you got the dogs, absolute dogs that we have on defense, and Grover Stewart had a great year, but DeForest Buckner, Leonard, Blackman, Willits, you have these guys who can just absolutely, Kenny Moore can blitz hard. I was a bit agitated that he didn't go for it a bit more. I would have liked to let the horse out the stable, to be honest. Not that's, I'm not saying he's a rubbish coach or, we've definitely had so many worse coaches than Matt Eberflus in the Colts organization. So he's definitely not down there, and he will probably be a head coach after this year. So
he's got to be after this year.
Yeah. But anyway, before we get on to the actual coaching staff here, I will get on to, because there was a couple of changes, obviously. The big shock of the offseason for me was Phillip Rivers retiring. With Phillip Rivers, competitiveness, I really didn't expect him to retire. Did you guys see anything different?
I I didn't expect it. I thought we had one more year probably. I think the Colts thought they had one more year. So to see that I'm happy for him that he hung it up on his own accord, but I was shocked by it as well. Like you said, his competitive nature. One more, like I can just hear his brain taking like one more year in this offense, one more year with this team. What could be different? And yeah, I thought he would be chasing after that, but guess not.
I think originally I was shocked when the news came out. I mean, I texted Brandon right away saying like this puts us definitely in a predicament, and I thought for sure Phil would probably go one more year. But then after the initial shock, you go back and you look at that press conference after Buffalo and how he was holding back tears the entire time. I think right there that should have been a glimpse to us, or at least gave us a hint that he was seriously considering walking away. And I think just looking back at that, when you kind of in retrospect, it shouldn't have surprised us. It did, just that initial shock. And as far as playing ability, I think he could have played one more year. Now, were the Colts would they be as dynamic going down the field passing? No, probably not. But Phillip Rivers still got the job done. I mean, he still led the Colts to an 11-5 season. And after those first 5 or 6 games, once he got his legs under him and got a grasp of this team, you kind of saw just a turn of Phillip Rivers, a guy that did take care of the ball for the most part, that was incredibly accurate, and a guy that the locker room absolutely fell in love with. And so that's why I think the Colts would have been fine, and the Colts would have liked for Phillip Rivers to have sticked around one more year. But obviously he felt the same way, and I respect it. I mean, good for him to go out on his own terms, and just seeing him now coaching in Alabama, he's pretty happy with his decision.
Colts loyalist, do you believe the struggles with the foot had anything to do with expediting his retirement? I'd like to say yes, but knowing how competitive, Phillip Rivers is, I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think he's had 55 kids now. He's got a high school team.
Yeah.
He's always said, he wanted to go and coach. He was going to do it last year. Obviously, Frank Wright made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. But it certainly hindered the Colts last year, didn't it? What were your, not thoughts, but as the season was unfolding, sort of your raw reactions to Phillip Rivers? Because obviously it didn't start great, but then towards the end it seemed amazing, even though he was one-legged.
Yeah, I think for me, Phillip Rivers definitely exceeded my expectations on how he was going to perform. Because when the trade was made, I wasn't overly enthusiastic. The big question mark for me was, are we going to get the Phillip Rivers of 2019, or is Frank Reich going to be able to reel him in? And
even a Phillip Rivers of 2018 would be great.
Even the Phillip Rivers of 2018, but the Phillip Rivers of 2019, not great. We did not want that. So that was the big question mark for me. And we said it all the time on our show. Phillip Rivers didn't need to be Pro Bowl Phillip Rivers for this team to have a shot. Phillip Rivers just needed to play within the offense, be able to give it to Jonathan Taylor, be able to complete those passes to T.Y. Hilton and Michael Pittman Jr., give it to Nyheim Hines out of the backfield and let him go to work. So, and I think once you saw around week 5 or 6, especially after that Browns game, because that Browns game was bad. And then the following week, we're down 21-0 to Cincinnati. And you see Phillip Rivers rally the troops and just the Colts storm back and win that game. That was the turning point for me. That was when I felt, okay, Phillip Rivers is our quarterback and we can win some games with him. It was only the Bengals, but you saw throughout the year Phillip Rivers really take over that team. Now, as far as the retirement is concerned with his foot, I don't know if we're really ever going to know that. I think if it required surgery, then that might have persuaded him to retire. But it definitely limited him towards the end of the year. But I don't think it limited him in such a way that it was hindering his best qualities, such as accuracy and how he was pre-snap. So as far as the foot's concerned, I don't think it really hindered him, especially in that Buffalo game.
I was never a big Phillip Rivers fan. I didn't ever think he was a bad quarterback. That never crossed my mind. I thought he was getting old. But a lot of heartbreaking losses to the Chargers have caused me to dislike Phillip Rivers almost as much as I dislike Tom Brady. But the second I just was in disbelief. I didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think there was any way we would sign Phillip Rivers. We signed Phillip Rivers. And my switch flipped. I'm like, well, listen, he didn't have the offensive line that we have. He didn't have this. He didn't have that. He's going to have a great season. So I jumped on the Phil Rivers bandwagon real fast because I always have high hopes for our season every year. But over the season, I grew to become a big-time Phillip Rivers fan. Bought a jersey. Wore that to a couple of games last year. But I was not a fan at first. But throughout the season, aside from his play, which did start poorly and progressed huge throughout the season, I became a big Phillip Rivers fan personality-wise. Awesome guy, and I really enjoy. I'm glad he had that season with the Colts because I know he holds that near and dear to his heart as a special season.
Yeah, it's weird because new quarterback comes in, Carson Wentz, not many people's first choice, but what we got him for was fantastically cheap for who he is. But we find ourselves asking the same questions that we did with Phillip Rivers. Is he going to have last year, or is he going to play like he was in 2017? The oil line questions are completely. It's sort of like a deja vu moment for Colts fans.
It's very similar in a lot of ways and very different in a lot of ways. Obviously, the age difference. This is a move for a guy that we're going to hopefully have for a long time. This is similar, though, in a way that, it worked out for Phillip Rivers. So you're going to have high hopes that it works out for Carson Wentz, especially with a full offseason, which Rivers didn't have. So hopefully a faster start as well. But Andrew and I, middle of the season, we were laughing at people that were trashing Carson Wentz. I mean, laughing at them. I said, Andrew, what would you give up for Carson Wentz right now if he was on the table? This is middle of the season. We have no idea. Couldn't have an idea that this would ever happen. And I said, well, what would you give up? Anything? Yeah, anything. You know what I mean? He's having a bad year. He had one bad year. Peyton had it. Big Ben had it. Other good quarterbacks, great quarterbacks, had that year, and then from there took off. So I'm real excited about Carson Wentz. I think he's going to flourish.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. But I think one thing we do have to keep in mind as Colts fans, though, is we need to be realistic about our expectations.
Realistically, he could be MVP this year.
I do think that he is. I think it's going to be an adjustment period because while the offense is mostly the same and he can pick up on it, I mean, Phillip Rivers is. You heard Frank Reich talk about it. Phillip Rivers is one of the smartest quarterbacks that he's ever been around, and he was around Peyton Manning, and he puts him up there in that tier, being as a cerebral quarterback. It's going to be. There's going to be an adjustment period. So we can't expect Carson Wentz to come out week 1, week 2, even week 3 or 4 and just light the world on fire. We also have to think that while 2020 could be an outlier, 2017 could also be an outlier. So I think best case scenario for Carson Wentz in his first year with the Colts is he ends up somewhere in between that 2018-2019 area where he was still a top 15 quarterback in this league, borderline top 10, because the Colts can win with a top 10 quarterback. They can't win with a Jacoby Brissett, but they can win with a top 10 quarterback. And I think that's going to be big for Colts fans to really just keep that in mind because there is going to be an adjustment period. And we can't expect him to light the world on fire just because he's back with Frank Reich, because he's got a lot to work on. Mechanics-wise, a lot to work on, and he's got to fit in with those new team. That's going to take some time. I am excited. I think Carson Wentz can be a Super Bowl winning quarterback with the Colts. I really do. But as far as 2021, I'm kind of tampering my expectations down so that way to be realistic, where I don't think it's just going to automatically be 2017 every year.
Listen, the difference between cerebral Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz okay, that can cause him to have a fast start is his arm. He can throw the ball down the field still.
Yeah.
Phil Rivers didn't have that. So when in doubt, if Ty can still turn it up, I mean, we still have that threat. Zach Pascal, Paris Campbell, hopefully, Michael Pittman Jr. another year in the. I mean, he's going to have weapons that's going to make his job a lot easier. Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, Marlon Mack still in the backfield. He's going to, with a full off season and always the when in doubt, throw the ball down the field to Ty. I disagree with you. I'm not saying I expect a huge season out of Carson Wentz, but I think it's far from unrealistic.
I mean, I'm expecting 17-9, nothing less. But, I talk about this a lot with my co-host Xavier, but the one thing I do like to say is what Chris Bard has done is made everyone's job on that offense a little bit easier by bringing in Carson Wentz. The O-line doesn't have to work as hard to protect him because he can escape. We've seen his escaping capabilities in Philly. But then Carson Wentz can also rely on Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack, who's back, Hines, Wilkins, all them guys. And then, it's sort of the question is who the defenses we're playing against cover. Do you cover T.Y. Hilton? Well, then you've left Nyheim Hines open in the backfield. So going forward, guys, what's the game? Are we still run the damn ball with Quentin Nelson, fullback on occasion? Or are we open up the field and let T.Y. do his thing?
I think we better be run the damn ball. I think I do. Like I said, I'm not saying for sure I expect Carson Wentz to have an explosive, crazy season, but if he's going to have a season that gets him back on track and whatnot, I think getting the run game going is going to be essential. He never, even the year, I don't think 2017, I don't have the stats on it, but I don't think they had a great run game that year either.
Oh, they did. They did. When 2017 as a team, they ranked third in the league in rushing.
Okay, well, I'm making things up then, but they still didn't have the offensive line. In 2018, he did everything on his own. I mean, he was willing that team to any victories they had up until the point he got hurt, which is why I would say he was a top 10 quarterback in 2018, in my opinion. But I think the run game is going to be key to getting him off to a good start, especially early in the season.
It is, because the thing that got Carson Wentz in trouble a lot last year is him playing hero ball, him thinking him just not trusting his teammates, because that offensive line was in shambles. The wide receivers didn't do him any good. Coaching and scheme surely didn't do him any good, were these long developing plays. And a lot of times he had to play hero ball. And when you watch the film, there's times where he tries to get out of a sack or get out of the pocket and try to make this crazy play, when in reality, all he had to do was step up in the pocket or do just a little sidestep and deliver the ball down the field. So that's the thing that I think Frank Reich is going to have to balance. There's going to be a balance between letting Carson use his athletic ability, which is incredible. It's Andrew Luck type athletic ability. Use that athletic ability, but not so much where you're playing hero ball all the time and putting the team in trouble. So that's going to be the big thing is that balance. And I do think that the Colts are really going to rely on Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, Marlon Mack, really get that into a rhythm. They're going to rely on the RPO game. We're going to see a lot of RPOs, more like how it was in the beginning of 2018 with the Colts. When you get Andrew Luck back, Frank Reich is working on him to get the ball out quicker and get it to where it needs to go. So the less pressure we can put on Carson Wentz here this year, the better the Colts are going to be.
The Eagles run into him was a J in Blunt. Obviously, very good 1-2 punch, but that's nothing on what the Colts have for a running game at the minute. If you include the whole package, we'll break onto that a little bit later, but I want to fast forward a little bit into the off season now. Obviously, we get Xavier Rhodes back, which is massive. I didn't expect him to come back. I thought he was worth a lot more than probably what he got. But then the big movement for Colts fans, it was trending everywhere. It was on Pat McAfee, ESPN, all that, was bring T.Y. home. He nearly went until, Mr. Irsay jumps in and says, You ain't going nowhere. Give him his money. How big is it to get a guy like T.Y. Hilton back into the locker room?
And I think it really is big because over the past few years, especially, T.Y. Hilton has really taken over that leadership role in the wide receiver room, not only there, but really in the team. And with these young guys that we're expecting big things from, Michael Pittman Jr., we're expecting him to take that next step. Paris Campbell, we saw it in the game in Jacksonville where he started to look like a legit threat and a legit weapon for this team. And then unfortunately gets that helmet right on his knee and it just wipes out the rest of his year. He's there. People forget Zach Pascal is still only 25 years old. He's still a young guy. Desmond Patman, Ashton Doolin, Michael Strawn, all of these guys are young wide receivers. But outside of T.Y. Hilton, the oldest is Zach Pascal. And like I said, he's 25, 26 years old. So the leadership and it's the way of the Colts receiver. Marvin passed it to Reggie, passed it to T.Y., who's going to be passing it to Pittman and Campbell. Hopefully. And this is kind of what it's going to be like. So I think it's huge for the locker room. Now, I think T.Y. Hilton is going to see more success with a quarterback that is like Carson Wentz, who likes to throw the deep ball, who you can get T.Y. Hilton in those routes to succeed like that, rather than a Jacoby Brissett or a Phillip Rivers who's looking for the check down. Carson Wentz, you're gonna have more deep balls. We're gonna have a little bit more explosive offense this year. So I think he can really thrive off of that. But I think, if anything, it's more of that locker room presence that T.Y. Hilton brings to the Colts that I think is you really can't measure how valuable that will be.
Yeah, I think the leadership role, like Andrew said, is the biggest thing. I think when Mr. Irsay jumps into a situation like this, which he does not do often, he does not meddle a lot. That if you're the GM, Chris Ballard or not, that's one of those times you should listen, because if he's making a statement, if he's throwing his opinion in the ring, it's probably a good one. And I think it also is typically tied to that leadership thing. Like it is with TY, I think it's a locker room thing. And I think Irsay understands that to a really high degree, even though, he's a weird dude to talk to. You see interviews. He's a goofy guy, but anybody that talks to him loves him. And I just think he's got a feel for the heartbeat of the locker room on a typical basis. And I think that was probably the biggest reason he stepped in, and I agree that that's the biggest, most important reason to bring TY back, aside from now bringing back that deep ball threat.
It kind of just shows how important that is that Irsay did step in, because he doesn't do that unless it's a franchise icon. He lets Chris Ballard do his thing, but this one he's like, what do we need to do to get TY back? And not only that, I think TY just knows how valuable he is to the city and how much the Colts fans love him. Shout out to Heidi Raybrook. We had her on our show I don't know, about a month ago or so. And she kind of led the bring TY home hashtag with her song to TY that went viral. And TY said on Pat McAfee's show that he saw all of those, and when he saw just how much the fans loved him and want him back, that was something that he'll cherish forever. So yeah, shout out Heidi.
Yeah, fantastic. So question from our Watcher Colts loyalist. In your opinion, what is Reich's biggest task to help Carson? For me, it's just, it's all well and good showing him Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, Kelly, Eric Fisher, and saying you've got a good O-line now. For me, Reich's got to install that belief in Carson that he's going to be protected. What about you guys?
I think it's just instilling confidence in him in general. And like you said, the fact that he's going to be well protected is probably layer number one of that. I think Carson Wentz's athleticism, and his drive and his competitiveness, I think that's enough to overcome the small mechanical issues. It's not, which his mechanics have gone down. Last year was not the same as every other year, and it was just a bad situation. I mean, his mechanics have fallen to a spot where they need some help, and that'll happen throughout the season. But I think what's more important than that is just the confidence that he's the guy, and that he doesn't really have anything to worry about behind him, and that the Colts believe in him in general. And I think the team knew that right off the bat. I mean, you had everybody like tweeting, "Let's go! We're glad you're here. Let's get to work." So I think the team already played a big part of that, and Reich obviously is going to have to be a big part of rebuilding that confidence.
Yeah, what you mentioned there was key, is the locker room really embraced him right away. And we've seen that already this offseason. We saw the video the Colts put out of them playing knockout at the end of one of their practices, him and Mo Alley Cox. And even though Carson Wentz lost, you see T.Y. Hilton run over and jump on his shoulders. The whole team has really embraced Carson Wentz. I do think it's a lot of mental. Bring back his confidence, but it is also those mechanics that you mentioned, Brandon. The mechanics, and really just starting from the ground up. Frank Reich, this offseason, when speaking about Carson Wentz, he pretty much gave his opinion about how he felt about how Carson Wentz played in 2020. He said, "Humble pie doesn't taste good, but it's good for you." It means he knows Carson Wentz was trash last year. Carson knows he didn't play well last year. So what do you do? You start from the ground up. You start with your base. You start with making sure you have your lower body and your upper body doing the same motion. And when you start building that foundation over again with those good mechanics, it's just going to continue to get better. You're going to see better results. And then as a result of your mechanics being better, you're going to build more confidence in yourself because you're playing better football. So I think that's also twofold. So if Reich is going to be instrumental, and Carson Wentz now has all the tools around him to succeed: a play caller and a head coach that he trusts, plenty of weapons, a solid offensive line, a budding star in Jonathan Taylor, and a solid running game. It's now on Carson Wentz to make the best of it.
Before I move on to the next part, we'll be talking about the NFL draft, especially the first round. This sort of all goes back to what Chris Ballard's believed in since day one, which is you pull your weight, no matter if you're the kit man or the caretaker, if you're the fans, if you're the players. He even holds himself accountable by saying we'll never have an early first round pick with him. It's throw your weight around, bring that leadership to the team. Otherwise, ship up and get out of the locker room. He's got rid of a few, I won't say bad eggs, but just guys who were sort of being the grey man, being in the middle, not really doing anything. But really, guys, we suffered Ryan Grigson, who shall not be named, in Indianapolis. But we have to suffer that to get the Chris Ballards of the world.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point, how it's not all about one guy too.
Mm-hmm.
When Chris Ballard took the job in 2017, they were all the questions were about Andrew Luck, and Chris Ballard said, "Look, it's not going to be about just one guy. Yeah, Andrew Luck's a phenomenal talent, but we're not going to succeed if it's all on Andrew Luck's back. We need to be able to protect and get that offensive line, get the weapons, build a defense that's incredible around him." And that's what Chris Ballard's done. This is, in my opinion, this is one of the deepest teams and most talented teams that the Colts have had since the Peyton Manning days. When you think about it, we have four all pros on this team. 4 first-team All-Pros. We have 2 second-team All-Pros, and we have a Carson Wentz that's coming in who we've seen play at an MVP level before, a budding star in Jonathan Taylor. We have fantastic young guys on the edges that could turn into stars as well. And when we're talking about the NFL draft here soon. So it's Chris Ballard has really stuck to his guns. He's been very savvy. He's stuck to his morals. When he has taken a risk, like trading a first round pick for DeForest Buckner, it's played out well. So when he takes those calculated risks, more often than not, they pan out well. And it's led to this solid team that's in Indianapolis right now.
I think Chris Ballard is one of the best, if not the best, GMs in the league. Colin Cowherd agrees with me there. Andrew definitely agrees with me there. And I think Jim Irsay definitely agrees. When they hired Chris Ballard, he knew Chris Ballard had a plan and it was going to take some time. And it started with building culture in the locker room. Like you said, we don't necessarily say threw out any bad eggs. But there are definitely some guys that have gone that needed to be gone.
There's
think
been an Eric Ebron here and there that needed to be tossed out.
Yeah. I think Anthony Walker's probably the first great team leader that he's let go. You know what I mean? But that building that culture allowed for things like the DeForest Buckner trade to work out, Phillip Rivers to work out. Hopefully Carson Wentz to work out.
Yeah. People forget about Chris Ballard's pedigree. So he was, for those who don't know, I'm sure you guys do, he was at the Chiefs where he helped draft, Travis Kelce, Mecole Hardman, and even Tyreek Hill. I think he had a hand in. Yeah, exactly. And I didn't know this when we got Chris Ballard. I only found this out this year when I started doing this show, and I had to do my research. But then he goes and drafts someone like Darius Leonard, the worst pick in the draft. Let's remember this. All these experts called him the worst pick in the draft, and now he's top 5 linebackers currently playing. Obviously,
we say top 3.
So yeah, even top 3. Depending on what you look at. But I mean, for me, if I'm being completely, letting my homerism go, he's top 1. He's the best linebacker in the league. And how I would judge that is he could walk into any other team in the NFL and get a starting spot.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, and the thing is too, when you talk about the like when you said Anthony Walker walked, and it wasn't even on bad terms. Anthony Walker, it was time for him to go somewhere else because Bobby Okereke has ascended. Bobby Okereke's a better player than Anthony Walker at this time, and Anthony Walker wanted to go somewhere where he can go get more playing time. He's going to have that opportunity in Cleveland, but you kind of hit it right on the head that the opportunities that Chris Ballard has taken, they've really worked out, and even he had that vision. And Chris Ballard has, before he got to the Colts, Chris Ballard interviewed for different GM spots and turned down offers because he wanted to make sure he did this his way. He wanted to make sure it was the right opportunity. And so with all those years in Kansas City, and then as a scout for the Chicago Bears before that, because Chris Ballard was there when the Bears had that great team in the mid-2000s when they went up against Indianapolis in the Super Bowl. Ballard was a scout for the Bears at that time. So he's seen what championship teams, how they can be built. And he's been under coaches and GMs that really have that winning culture. And so when he was looking for a team, it couldn't just be any team. It had to be the right situation, and it had to be the right owner that would allow him to do things his own way. And Jim Irsay has been around football his entire life. I mean, he saw how Robert Irsay in his heyday absolutely destroyed the Colts and turned them into the laughing stock of the league. So he saw the mistakes that his dad did, and he's realized that he's been around the game forever. You put very talented people in the right positions, and you let them build your team. And that's exactly what Jim Irsay has done. And I think he should be commended on it for sure, because there's a lot of owners there that are very meddling. And only a couple are successful. Jerry Jones is one of them who's won a Super Bowl while meddling in plans. It normally doesn't work out. You hire the right people, you hire the people that are very talented, and you let them do their job, and you stay out of the way. Jim Irsay has been phenomenal with that.
He has. Okay, bringing it forward, the offseason started to get exciting. The draft year could feel the build-up. The Colts had a first-round pick, so I actually got to stay up for the first night for once. It was worth staying up for. But no, going into this, the $1 million question, guys, were you offensive tackle? Were you cornerbacks? What were you guys looking for in this draft?
I'll go first. Andrew's more of a draft expert than I am, so I'll get my measly opinion out of the way. I wanted offensive line, or defensive end. Corner, I thought was probably second highest need on the list, but I knew there weren't any great corners. Starting corners probably dropping down to our spot in the draft. So I just kind of wrote that off as a possibility. So I was wanting offensive line. I think that left tackle position is so crucial. I still, at that point thought, hey, there's still a chance we could re-sign Justin Houston and maybe go after a younger guy next year. That was my goal, but I also didn't think there was a chance in hell Kwity Paye fell all the way to 21, and here we are. So I was really excited. I'm real excited about that pick. Second round, I had some issues with, but Andrew, I don't know if we get into the second round here, he straightened me out, I guess we could say.
So going into the draft, obviously, when you're talking about a Chris Ballard team, they're going to go best player available no matter what. And the only time that it'll be a need is if the best player available and need really match up. Now, when we did before the draft, we did our pre-draft episodes, we were breaking down some players and we broke down some edge rushers. We didn't break down Kwity Paye because, quite frankly, I didn't think he was going to be there. I thought that Kwity Paye wasn't going to make it outside the top 15. And then as the draft started to go, you see Kwity Paye start to fall down the board, and Brandon and I on our live stream were talking about, around 15, Kwity Paye's dropping, and I'm like, Kwity Paye's still there. Brandon yells at me to not say it, could not jinx it because he'll end up getting taken. But as soon as the Giants didn't take Kwity Paye at 20, and instead they took Tony out of Florida, immediately Brandon and I was like, well, we need to put the card in. We need to put the card in for Kwity Paye. There was still a chance that the Colts could take Christian Darrisaw because Darrisaw was right there. But again, when you're Chris Ballard has said it over and over again, if you reach for a need, then that creates two holes on your roster because number one, your guy might not even be able to play that position, and you'll be looking for his replacement in a couple years. And two, you missed out on the guy that could be really good for your team. So I was very happy with the Kwity Paye selection. Glad that he fell to where he did. And again, just another solid pick by Chris Ballard. He hit it out of the park again. I
also talked about how left tackle position is obviously extremely important. It's probably the second most important position on your offense. But when you've got left guard, center, right tackle that are still some of the best in the league, and left guard the best in the league, you can probably get away with an average to above average left tackle, a little bit better with a guy with legs like Carson Wentz, whereas Phil Rivers, he had to be protected on all angles because he can move. I've never seen a guy not be able to run like Phil Rivers. So left tackle position with a more mobile quarterback probably slides down a bit in importance.
Yeah. I think it was like 3 a.m. here in the morning. And I see Kwity Paye starting to fall, and I just all of a sudden start pacing my living room, walking back with the ball. It just can't happen. In a year where it seemed like in the draft, Chris Ballard couldn't work his magic because of the position he was in. I don't know what he did, but he worked his magic, and the Giants didn't pick Kwity Paye. Like, how did this guy do it? There was no chance for you was getting him, and he just, this absolute stud of a player, just sort of fell to us. It was, I know I nearly wiped the whole street up, but but seriously, Lloyd, Kwity is talented. We know how talented he is, but if briefly you want to go what you're thinking about the rest of the draft, I like Kyle Granson. I think it was an excellent pickup. The Sam Erlinger one, I'm not really sure what that pick is. So if you briefly, both of you want to go through what you thought the rest of the draft was for the Colts.
Same thing. I'll cut Andrew off and go first for this because, again, not a draft expert. I had questions about the second pick. Just going defensive end. I just didn't understand it. Hearing stuff about Odangbo now, I think once he's healthy, I can be a real big fan of. Loved the Kyler Granson pick. Kylan. I think he's going to be awesome. The Strawn pick, it's kind of like the Desmond Patman pick to me. Looks like a freak athlete, and I think could do some dangerous stuff. Sam Ellinger, that surprised me that we took a quarterback as early. What was that? Third?
That was a sixth round.
Sixth round. Okay. I just didn't see us taking a quarterback with Jacob Eason probably being backup, but I mean, you got to have other guys on the roster. So I would love to see him. I've heard people talk about the possibility of him being used as what's his name from the Saints?
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill, thank you. As like a possible Taysom Hill role, that would be cool. I would enjoy seeing some creativity out of Frank Reich in that position.
So I'll try to keep this brief. And if you watch The Educated Fan, you know how hard that is for me.
It's very difficult. He's very long-winded.
Dio Dangbo, a guy that a lot of people thought before the injury was a first-round pick. And Chris Ballard said he would have taken him in the first. And what really sells me on this pick is how it's very hard to be on the Colts draft board. They only have about 170 guys that they mark as draft eligible, and that's including all the guys with medical history. So for the Colts to take this guy even after tearing his Achilles, that signals to me that they're comfortable with his medical and that they're more than willing to take the chance because of the potential and the value that this player they think will bring to the organization. So, and if you think about it, for hearing everything out of training camp, Dio Dangbo is the same exact size as DeForest Buckner. You turn his tape on and he's an absolute monster and he's ferocious. So if we can have eventually a Kwity Paye at the right end, a Dio Dangbo at left end, and you have DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart in the middle, good luck to opposing offensive lines. So it's worth the risk. And there were other teams that were going to take him in the second round too. The Chiefs were interested. The Rams were. So the Colts weren't alone in that. Kylan Granson, prototypical F tight end. He can definitely be a mismatch down the field. So for my comp for him is, you imagine Trey Burton, about the same size, but he's more athletic than Trey Burton. He's got good hands, good route runner, good separation. I think Frank Reich's going to have fun in that offense. Sean Davis, the safety from Florida, kid can be reckless sometimes, but I think he's very smart. You hear the Colts talking about him. He's got that maturity that like Akari Willis had coming out when the Colts picked him. He almost sounds like he's been in the league for 5 years already. So that's good to hear, and it's going to be fun to kind of see if he can make the field or what he can do on special teams. The Sam Ellinger pick it was interesting. The reason they took him, Ballard said, and I just wrote this in my piece, whatever it is, he has it. And so when you have a guy that's very competitive, football character off the charts, who's only the 7th two-time captain in Texas football history, you're going to take a chance on that guy. And Brandon's right. He is athletic. He is very competitive. You could see Frank Reich having a little fun with him, like a small Jacoby Brissett package where he's used with his legs.
But more athletic than Jacoby.
And then the last two, Michael Strawn, freak athlete. I think he'll probably start on the practice squad, but it's going to be fun to see how he develops. And then let's not forget about Will Fries. Will Fries is a guy that I think could be on this team for a very long time. He's kind of like a Danny Pinter in that he can play multiple spots along the line, play either guard position. He can play some right tackle. And the guy is just a student of the game. He's very technically sound. And when you watch his film, he could have been like a 3rd or 4th round pick. So I think the Colts got a steal there, and something that the Colts wanted to address this offseason, building that depth on the offensive line, because we saw what happened when Costanzo and Braden Smith missed against Pittsburgh. Terrible. So we want to get as many guys on that offensive line as possible that can play good football. So a lot to be excited about from this draft class, and we'll be able to judge them about 3 to 4 years down the line to see how many of them pan out. But I was pretty happy with the Colts haul.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on then, the draft happens. Colts fans are happy. Again, not many people stoked in general about the Colts. We didn't get rated very highly on our draft grade. Whatever that means for me, that's a load of old bollock. Well, and then again, Chris Ballard goes and gets a guy, picks up Eric Fisher. We know what Eric Fisher can do. It's just a matter of can he stay fit? Has he got the legs underneath him to do it? But if Eric Fisher plays like Pro Bowl Eric Fisher, this offensive line is the best in recent history, really.
Yeah, and I think for me, it kind of goes back to what I said about Dio Dangbo, is the Colts medical staff. They're just so crucial, and they're so hard and picky on the medical that once the Colts got him through the physical and liked where he was, I mean, that kind of sold it for me, is that if they're comfortable enough with Eric Fisher, Chris Ballard knows Eric Fisher from his time in Kansas City, knows his work ethic, and I think he could be a really great addition to this team. Eric Fisher is a guy that when healthy, especially these last few years, has played at a Pro Bowl level. And that's not when you're next to the best left guard in the league in Quentin Nelson. So you put those two together, that's just going to elevate his play, like the Colts are expecting Quentin Nelson to elevate Sam Tevi's play while Eric Fisher is still recovering. And the Colts didn't just do this as like a one-year stopgate. If Eric Fisher can come back and play at a solid level, this is a guy that the Colts can re-sign, and this could be their left tackle for the next 4 to 5 years or so. So it's not like we're going to have Eric Fisher for 10, 11 games out of the year and then see you later, thanks for coming. If he plays well, this could be our long-term, or at least 4 to 5 year solution at left tackle.
Yeah, Eric Fisher, I think with the way things worked out with Kamoko Toure and his injury, I definitely don't expect to see Ballard allowing the team to rush him back in earlier than need be. I really think Ballard hopes he's back by October.
I think he'll start on the PUP list, but as of right now, all indications point to him being all close to returning by October.
Sure. So I would expect that Chris Ballard really is hoping we're able to have a good run early in the season through an absolute gauntlet of a schedule. And that Eric Fisher is going to be healthy enough to have, a good impact on the late season and hopefully playoff run.
Yeah. I mean, now we move into the fun part of the show, I like to call it. Every new guest I have on, I always ask them the same few questions. I'm not keeping score, so don't worry. It's not a test or anything. But the first one I like to start with is the Oklahoma drill. You have Quentin Nelson on one side of the ball. You have DeForest Buckner on the other side of the ball. Who are you guys picking to win?
Oh,
Quentin Nelson. Gotta go Big Q every time.
Big Q could probably get a little bit lower than Buckner just because Buckner's so big. I think you're gonna experience an earthquake within a 5-mile radius when those two guys collide. So you just better be prepared for that.
Do you think they run into each other and just fall straight to the side? Neither one wins. Perfectly even.
Oh man.
So you choosing Andrew? Sorry.
I'm probably going to go Big Q too, just because I think he can get a little bit lower than Buckner, but it's going to be a battle. It isn't like he's going to plow over Buckner. I think it's pretty much going to be like what Brandon said. They're just going to kind of meet in the middle and just be like a standstill. But I think Big Q could maybe push it back just a little bit.
Okay. The next question is this is one of my favorite questions. You have the best possible roster the Colts could ever put together of all time. Okay. You're in the Super Bowl. You're down by a touchdown or whatever. You're down by a field goal, let's say, but you need a touchdown to win it. You've got one choice as the head coach. You've either got Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning to lead this team on a game-winning drive in the Super Bowl. Which quarterback do you take?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Man, that's tough because Captain Comeback is Andrew Luck, but man, I can't go. I can't go against the GOAT. I think Peyton Manning would be for me. I trust Peyton to be in that situation, and if it's the best Colts roster of all time, that means you've got Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, T.Y. Hilton, Dallas Clark, Edgerrin James, all as your weapons out there.
the best, just the best. Every weapon you could possibly.
You know what? It's got to be Peyton Manning.
Saturday.
It's got to be Peyton Manning.
You know what? Just for competitive argument's sake, I'll say Andrew Luck. Because it's an impossible question, but Andrew just adds the additional legs aspect to it. So that's just one more weapon for that already loaded offense, apparently. So, I mean, you can't guard all those guys. And if you're trying, Andrew Luck can run with the football and Peyton Manning cannot very well.
Excellent. And my last question, we've got probably the best matchup in week 2 with the Clash of the Titans going at it. On defense, you have Aaron Donald, and on offense, you have Quentin Nelson. I want to see these two match up. I hope, the team just go, do you know what? This is a pay, if this was just them two guys, you'd pay $90 pay-per-view to watch it. How excited are you guys for this matchup?
I'm really, really stoked. I think that game will probably be, for me, the most I've ever watched line play and not paid attention to where the football is. I don't think I'm going to be able to take my eyes off of Quentin Nelson and Aaron Donald. Unfortunately for Quentin Nelson, defensive linemen, they consider their day a win if they get through 2-3 times, even though the offensive lineman, stops him however many other snaps throughout the game. So I think Aaron Donald's going to come away feeling like he won that one, but I think whoever wins the game is who I would say got the better of the other.
It's going to be interesting. I think that there will be some times where Aaron Donald and Quentin Nelson will go up against each other, but I think more often than not, unfortunately, we're going to see Aaron Donald switch over and try to go on Mark Lewinsky, and Ryan Kelly's going to have to go over there to help with the double team. But it's going to be a sight to see. I'm going to be at that game. I know there's going to be a buzz because there's going to be a lot of Colts fans there that are going to want to see that matchup and really see Big Q enforce as well and try to put on a show against the best defender in the league. So it's going to be a fun matchup, and I think that one's going to have a lot of eyes on it for sure.
Excellent. Well, gents, again, I can't thank you enough for both coming on. It's been an excellent chat. That's all the questions I had for you guys. Do you guys have any questions for me?
What time are the 1:00 games for you? What time, I guess, do the Colts generally play for you?
So it's usually they finish about midnight over here usually, unless it's the late game, then it finishes probably about 3:00 in the morning. The earlier games, they like the afternoon kickoffs. It starts about 6 p.m. here.
Oh, that's not bad.
But yeah,
I'm in the Pacific time zone now, so I'm hoping I stay this way for the start of football season, because I would love for games to start at 10 a.m. and then I can go to bed by like 10. I think that'd be wonderful. No, I don't think I have any other questions. If you want to hear how long-winded Andrew is, you should come watch our show, The Eh-Ducated Fan. You guys can see the name streaming down there at the bottom. We're getting ready to start this week an off-season little mini series called New Kid at School, where Andrew really just talks and talks and talks about all the new draft picks. And I sit and listen with a smile on. So yeah, you guys should give us a listen.
Yeah, I think I got one question for you. So, I got two, I guess. Have you ever been to a Colts game? Like, because I know the Colts played in London a few years ago against Jacksonville. Were you able to go to that game, or have you? Do you plan on coming to the U.S. to go to a Colts game?
So the first part of that question, unfortunately, I was on deployment, so just typical luck. I was out at sea when the Colts were at Wembley. Thankfully, it wasn't a great game, so I don't know what's the better thingy there. But I do plan to get to the Lucas Oil. I have looked at it a couple of times. It's just at the minute for me, my day job schedule is working in education, so all the football games are in term time. I am either in New York, hopefully, obviously COVID dependent, in the summer. So I was going to look at renting a car, driving down to Lucas Oil, get in the picture with the statue and all that jazz. but yeah, I'm dying to get over it. It's just a matter of when, really.
Mm-hmm. It's getting older now, but it's still one of the best stadiums in the league.
Yeah, I've seen some actually. Sorry, Andrew. I've seen some recently that it has been voted the best stadium by away fans for the past 7 out of 8 years.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I love going, and it's really a great experience. And then my final question, outside of like the Super Bowl victory or the 2006 AFC Championship game, because those are easy. What is your favorite moment as a Colts fan?
I will answer that. We just got a comment from Dustin. I think it's awesome there are Colts fans in the UK. Subscribe. That means a lot, pal. Thanks for subscribing. Yeah, we're all over, and I talk to Colts fans from all over the world, not just the UK, further into Europe, Australia, and stuff like that. So it is a family that's growing. To your question, my favourite moment as a Colts fan, so my personal favourite moment that I seen live was sort of a catch-22. So I was watching the Texans games where it was down by 21-0 going into the fourth quarter. And it was like 4 a.m. over here. And I was like, do you know what? I had a couple of drinks. I was like, I'm going to bed. This can't get any worse. I'm going to bed. And then I wake up to see that we won the game. And it was a good moment, but it's sort of the one moment that sticks in my head where I was like, if I had just stayed up a second longer for one more drive, then I might have stayed up again. But the best moment's got to be 2006. And just what a Super Bowl that was. And then the iconic halftime show with Prince performing Purple Rain. I love watching that back every other game. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
I remember that Texans game. That was years ago. I was still in high school. If we're thinking about the same one, it was Matt Schaub still, right?
Yeah.
With the Texans. At halftime, I went outside. I went out and played like catch with my brother or jumping on the trampoline or something. I was like, I'm not coming back in. And my mom's like, guys, like we just scored. Like I'm like, good. I'm staying out here. I'm super superstitious about that. So it's good you went to bed. Clearly, you and I were working together across the world. So yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks for coming on. We've been talking Colts football now for over an hour. Thanks for everyone for watching. Thanks for the new subscribe, Dustin. I've been UK Colts fans. To my right has been the Brandon. You say because I've always been.
It's the educated fan. The reason for I'm not going to get into the reason. Just know a name change is coming soon, and we're going to address the. Let's just call it what it is. Not the best idea Andrew and I have ever had.
But yeah, you can follow us at TheHeHDUCATEDFAN. That's our podcast. Yeah. Brandon's Twitter is right there, the BM Moses 9. You could get mine is at Andrew Moore SI. And then if you're looking for some Colts written content, check out Horseshoe Huddle on Sports Illustrated. You'll see my content. Jake Arthur,
Andrew's top story on Horseshoe Huddle right now. Sports Illustrated intern writing top stories.
Jake Arthur, Zach Hicks, Josh Carney, we all got stuff on there with me. So check it out. It's pretty cool.
Again, thanks. You've been watching UK Colts fans. This has been another great episode. See you all later.